It was just another quiet morning at the animal shelter, until a man in a faded leather jacket walked in. The moment his eyes met a German shepherd behind the bars, the air shifted. The dog froze, then began to tremble. A soft whimper escaped his throat, growing louder until the entire shelter fell silent. Everyone watched as tears streamed down the dog's face, his paw scratching desperately against the cage. The man's breath hitched, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Rex?" he whispered. In that instant, everyone realized this wasn't a random meeting. This was a reunion destiny refused to deny. The morning light spilled gently through the dusty windows of the city animal shelter. Rows of kennels lined the concrete corridor, each filled with faces waiting, some hopeful, some defeated. But in the far corner, one German shepherd sat silently, his amber eyes fixed on the door that never opened. His name was Rex. Unlike the other dogs who barked at every visitor, Rex stayed still. He didn't wag his tail, didn't cry, didn't move. The volunteers whispered that he used to be a police dog, but no one knew for sure. His old collar had been removed when he was brought in, and his paperwork said only one thing: found wandering near the highway. Every morning, when the shelter lights flickered on, Rex would rise, walk to the gate, and stare through the bars, waiting for someone. But no one ever came. Today seemed no different. The same metallic hum of cages, the same smell of disinfectant and wet fur. Yet, as the hours passed, something shifted in the air. The shelter door opened. A man stepped inside, and for the first time in months, Rex's ears twitched. He lifted his head and waited. The bell above the shelter door chimed softly as a man stepped inside, brushing rain from his worn leather jacket. His face carried a quiet sadness, the kind that comes from losing more than you can put into words. "Can I see the dogs available for adoption?" he asked, his voice low, almost hesitant. The shelter worker, a kind woman named Grace, nodded and led him down the long hallway lined with kennels. Dozens of dogs barked eagerly, tails wagging, paws scratching at the metal gates. But the man's eyes drifted past them all, as if he was searching for someone, not something. Then, halfway down the corridor, it happened. A German shepherd sitting silently in the corner suddenly lifted his head. His ears perked. His eyes locked onto the man. For a moment, neither moved. Then the dog let out a soft whine, one that grew louder, breaking into trembling cries that echoed through the shelter. Grace blinked in surprise. "That's strange," she murmured. "He never reacts to anyone." The man took a slow step forward, heart pounding, as the shepherd pressed himself against the bars, tail wagging in short, desperate bursts. Something deep within him stirred, a feeling of recognition that made his breath catch. He whispered, almost to himself, "No, it can't be." The man's knees felt weak as he lowered himself in front of the kennel. The German shepherd's cries grew softer now, replaced by quiet whimpers and trembling paws scratching against the floor. The dog's eyes glistened with something unmistakable, recognition. Grace watched in disbelief. "Do you know this dog?" she asked, her brow furrowed. The man didn't answer at first. His trembling hand reached through the narrow gap in the bars. The moment his fingers brushed the shepherd's fur, the dog pressed closer, whining deeply from his chest, a sound filled with longing and relief. The man's eyes filled with tears. "Rex?" he whispered. The name escaped his lips like a memory coming back to life. The dog froze for a heartbeat, then let out a low, broken cry, tail wagging frantically. It was as if he had been waiting for that one word all along. Grace gasped softly. "Rex? Wait, are you saying this is your dog?" The man nodded slowly, eyes wide in disbelief. "It can't be. He was declared missing 2 years ago." The room fell silent. The man pressed his forehead against the cold metal gate, tears streaking down his face. Rex whimpered and licked at his fingers through the bars. Two lost souls, one human, one loyal companion, had found each other again in the most unexpected place on Earth. 2 years earlier, Officer Daniel Hayes and his canine partner, Rex, were inseparable. Together, they had faced the city's darkest nights, drug busts, search missions, rescues that pushed them both to their limits. Rex wasn't just a service dog. He was family. Every morning, Daniel would clip on Rex's badge collar, pat his head, and whisper, "Let's bring them home safe, buddy." But one night changed everything. A warehouse raid went horribly wrong. A hidden explosive detonated, shaking the entire block. Daniel was thrown backward, his vision blurred by smoke and dust. Through the chaos, he heard Rex's bark, desperate, brave, fading into the distance. When the rescue team arrived, only Daniel was found. For months, he searched, checking shelters, calling rescue units, following every lead. But eventually, the department classified Rex as missing in action. A ceremony was held, and Daniel received a folded flag and Rex's empty leash. He never stopped blaming himself. Every time he heard a bark in the distance, his heart skipped a beat. Every German shepherd he saw made his chest tighten. Unbeknownst to him, Rex had survived. Injured and alone, he was found miles away by a passerby. Later transferred to a small-town shelter with no record of his handler, and for 2 long years, Rex waited, never letting anyone near him, never trusting another soul. Until the day his partner finally walked through that door, the air inside the shelter felt electric, thick with disbelief and emotion. Grace's hands trembled as she reached for the kennel latch. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. Daniel nodded, his voice breaking. "He's my partner. Please, let me see him." With a gentle click, the door swung open. For a split second, Rex hesitated, as if afraid it might all vanish like a dream. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, he leapt forward. The impact knocked Daniel onto the floor, but the officer didn't care. He laughed through tears as Rex buried his head against his chest, whining uncontrollably, tail thrashing like it hadn't moved in years. Grace covered her mouth, tears glistening in her eyes. Around them, the shelter fell completely silent. Even the other dogs seemed to sense something sacred was happening, a reunion beyond words. Daniel held Rex close, his voice shaking. "I thought I lost you, boy. I thought you were gone." Rex whimpered softly, licking the tears from his face, pressing closer as if trying to say, "I never gave up on you." Grace finally spoke, her voice trembling. "I've never seen anything like this. It's like he waited for you." Daniel smiled through tears, resting his forehead against Rex's. "He did," he whispered. "And I came back." The next morning, sunlight streamed through the shelter windows as Daniel signed the final adoption papers. His hands still trembled slightly, but this time, it wasn't from sorrow, it was from relief. Rex sat beside him, tail thumping softly against the floor, his eyes bright with life again. Grace smiled warmly. "He's officially yours," she said, handing over the documents. Daniel chuckled, slipping Rex's old police badge collar around his neck, the same one he had carried in his pocket every single day since that night. "Welcome home, partner," he whispered as they stepped outside. The crisp morning air felt like a new beginning. Rex trotted proudly beside him, glancing up at Daniel every few steps, as if making sure he was still there. Later that evening, they sat together on the porch of Daniel's house, the sky painted in golden hues. For the first time in years, Daniel felt peace, a deep, unshakable calm only loyalty could bring. He looked down at Rex and smiled. "We found our way back," he murmured. Rex let out a quiet sigh, resting his head on Daniel's knee. "Home at last."